think we close these gates at dusk to protect dusk? That's the official story.
I have a visual on a possible 1054. I'm heading in.
Ben, negative. That is an order. Acknowledge.
It's empty.
You broke the pattern. You must be the one to begin the new one.
The real reason some national parks close at night, you think we close these gates at dusk to protect the wildlife or to keep you from stumbling off a cliff in the dark. That is the official story we file in our incident reports, the one that lets everyone sleep soundly. The truth is, the sunset protocol isn't about locking you out. It's about keeping what's already in here from getting out. The official dispatch log will tell you we close the gates at dusk for reasons of public safety and resource management. That's the clean, bureaucratic language we use. It's about protecting the delicate ecosystem, preventing unprepared hikers from getting lost after nightfall, and giving the nocturnal fauna their space. I write those justifications myself in every end of shift report, and I've learned to make them sound convincing. The truth is, the sunset protocol has nothing to do with keeping people from stumbling off a trail. It's about making sure the trail doesn't follow them home. The sun is bleeding out behind the sawtooth ridge of the mountains, painting the undersides of the clouds in bruised purples and oranges. It's the last hour of light, what the old-timers call the gloaming, and the air itself feels different, thicker, heavier. I'm leaning against the fender of my unit, the metal still warm, watching the last straggler, a minivan with out-of-state plates, rumble over the cattle guard and out of the park. From the passenger seat, a kid waves. I raise a hand, a gesture that feels like a lie. That's the last of them, Ranger Sharma. The voice belongs to Ben Carter. He's new. So new the crease in his uniform hat is still sharp. He's got that academy posture, straight and certain, in a belief that every problem has a solution printed in a field manual. He's standing by the gate, hand resting on the heavy iron bar, eager to lock up and call it a day. Almost, I say, not looking at him. My eyes are scanning the tree line, the deep shadows that are already pooling in the hollows. We wait for the sweep. Jed radioed in his all clear 10 minutes ago, Ben says. His tone isn't insubordinate, just confused. Logical. Sector 4 is clear. Standard procedure says we can secure the gate on his mark. I finally turn to look at him. His face is open, earnest. He wants to do a good job. He just doesn't know what the job is yet. Standard procedure is for the tourists, Ben. The sunset protocol is for us. He frowns. The protocol? You mean the checklist? I've got it right here. He taps a laminated card attached to his belt. I shake my head, a slow, tired motion. The checklist is a summary, a poor one. Did anyone tell you why all park vehicles have to be parked facing east before sundown? Something about the morning sun hitting the windshields? Prevents frost buildup, makes for a faster start in an emergency. He recites it like a line from a textbook. That's what we tell the district supervisor, I say, pushing off the truck. I walk towards him, my boots crunching on the gravel. The evening chorus of insects is starting to fade, a little earlier than it should. That's one of the first signs. The real reason is you want to be able to see what's reflected in your mirrors without turning your head. And you never, ever want to have to put the vehicle in reverse. Ben's certainty wavers. Just for a second, a flicker of doubt crosses his face before he shores it up with logic. Okay. And the final radio check? Why do we have to say the kettle is boiling instead of just all secure? Because some things in these woods have learned to mimic voices, I say, my own voice dropping lower. But they can't replicate the cadence of nonsense. It's a tell. We learned that particular lesson the hard way back in '09, long before your time. The silence that follows is deeper than just the absence of noise. The crickets haven't started up again. I can feel the pressure in my ears, a subtle shift like a change in elevation. It's here, not close but awake, aware. My hand instinctively goes to the small, smooth stone in my pocket, a habit I don't even notice anymore. Samuel Blackwood gave it to me years ago. He calls it a listening stone, though it doesn't help you hear. It helps you feel the quiet. Right, Ben says, the single word stretched thin. He's trying to file my explanation away under local superstition or hazing the new guy, but the unnatural stillness is getting under his skin. I can see it. The radio on my belt crackles to life, a burst of static that sounds less like interference and more like something tearing. It's a sound you only hear up in the high country, especially near the old quarry. Jed's voice cuts through, strained but clear. Sector 4 sweep complete. The kettle is boiling. Copy that, Jed, I reply, my thumb on the transmit button. Gate is closing. See you at the station. I nod to Ben. He hesitates, then swings the massive gate closed. The clang of the bar locking into place is loud and final in the immense quiet. For a moment, we both just stand there on the inside of the fence, listening to the world hold its breath. The last sliver of sun vanishes, and the darkness that floods the valley isn't empty. It is full. Come on, Carter, I say, my voice flat and professional again. Let's get back. The night is long and the paperwork never sleeps. He thinks the protocol is a set of rules to be followed. He doesn't understand yet that it's a truce, a fragile agreement negotiated in silence over generations. And every single night, we have to hope the other party still chooses to honor it. The station is an island of fluorescent light in an ocean of encroaching darkness. Back here, under the hum of the electricity and the familiar scent of stale coffee, the weight of the gloaming seems to lift. Ben Carter doesn't feel it, of course. He's clattering away at his keyboard, logging his patrol hours, his face illuminated by the screen's cold blue glow. He's in his element: procedure, data, quantifiable reality. Samuel Blackwood sits in the corner, nursing a mug of tea, his presence as quiet and unassuming as a shadow. Has our cultural liaison, another one of those clean official titles that doesn't begin to describe what he is. Has the park's memory, the keeper of its rhythms, the one who taught me how to read the silence. His eyes, dark and deep set in a face mapped with the lines of 70 winters, are fixed on the new ranger. He doesn't watch Ben with judgment, but with a kind of weary sorrow. The wind is coming down from the high passes tonight, Samuel says, his voice a low rumble. He's not speaking to anyone in particular. It carries things, best not to be out when it starts to talk. Ben stops typing. Weather report says clear skies all night, Samuel. Barometric pressure is stable. He offers a polite, dismissive smile. We use satellite data for our forecast now. It's pretty accurate. Samuel takes a slow sip of his tea. The satellite doesn't see the way the aspen leaves turn their backs to the mountain. It doesn't hear what the coyotes are not saying. He looks at me then, a direct and heavy gaze. Some lines are not on any map. I nod, understanding the warning perfectly. Ben just sees an old man speaking in riddles. It's the friction I knew was coming, his world of GPS coordinates and regulations grinding against a reality held together by stories and observation. Before I can translate Samuel's warning into language Ben might accept, the radio squawks. It's Ben's call sign. Dispatch, this is Ranger 3. I have a visual on a possible 1054 just off the Switchback Trail, Sector 2. Single individual appears disoriented. A lost person. I grab my handset. Ranger 3, this is Sharma. Confirm location. Are they on the trail? Negative, dispatch. They're in the scree field below the ridge. Looks like they're trying to flag me down. I'm heading in. A cold knot tightens in my gut. Sector 2 at twilight. The scree field. The place the old maps just called the tumble. Ben, negative. Do not leave the trail. Maintain visual and wait for backup. Sunset is in 20 minutes. You need to be at the rendezvous for check-in. There's a pause, filled with a burst of static that sounds like a dry laugh. Anya, with all due respect, I've got a civilian in distress. Say our protocol is clear. Immediate response is required. I can't just sit here and wait for the sun to go down. He's not wrong according to the book. The book he studied, the one with neat chapters and clear instructions. He doesn't know that out here, we use a different book, one written in scratched symbols on rocks and whispered from one generation of rangers to the next. Carter, that is an order, I say, my voice sharp, authoritative. Acknowledge. The silence stretches. In the corner, Samuel slowly places his mug on the table. The small click is deafening. Finally, Ben's voice comes back, no longer arguing, just stating his decision. I have a duty of care, Ranger Sharma. I'm going in. We'll be later for check-in, but I'll have the hiker with me. Carter out. The channel goes dead. He thinks he's doing the right thing, Samuel murmurs, his eyes closed. It's how it always starts. The clock on the wall ticks with agonizing slowness. 20 minutes. 15. 10. The sun dips below the horizon and the station's windows turn into black mirrors reflecting our own tense faces. It's time. I key the radio, my hands steady despite the tremor running up my arm. All units, this is dispatch. Sunset check-in, report status. Jed's voice comes through first from the gate. Jed, Sector 1, the kettle is boiling. Maria, Sector 5, the kettle is boiling. Ranger 4, North Perimeter. Kettle's boiling. I wait. Every ranger on duty is accounted for, except one. Ranger 3, this is dispatch. Ben, come in. Report your status. Only static answers. A thick, hungry static that seems to be eating the very air. I try again, my voice a blade of calm I don't feel. Ranger Carter, acknowledge transmission. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a specific and terrible kind of silence. The kind that signifies a line has not just been crossed, but erased. Ben Carter didn't just miss his check-in. He broke the truce. And now the other party is answering. The official search and rescue protocol is a flurry of controlled, procedural chaos. I make the necessary calls, my voice clipped and professional, logging the incident. Ranger Carter, overdue from patrol, last known location Sector 2, unresponsive to radio calls. To any supervising officer listening in on the frequency, it's a standard missing person case in the wilderness. But to Jed, who I dispatched to secure the perimeter at the trailhead, the instruction is different. I tell him to bring the iron stakes in the salt line. He doesn't question it. Samuel doesn't move from his chair until my calls are done. Then he rises, gathering a small, worn leather satchel from a locker the new recruits never open. He went into the tumble, Samuel says. It isn't a question. The ground there is loose. It forgets things easily. We bypass the standard SR cache. The high-powered strobes, the medical kits, the climbing ropes, they're useless for this. Instead, I unlock a heavy steel footlocker tucked away in the maintenance bay. Inside, the equipment is old, non-standard issue. There's a heavy-duty spotlight fitted with a strange violet-tinted lens, coils of copper wire, a flask of spring water from a very specific place high in the mountains. My hand closes around a compass. Its needle doesn't spin freely but trembles, pointing erratically before settling on a direction that is decidedly not north. It knows we're coming, Samuel says as we load the gear into my truck. He kicked the hornet's nest. Now they are all awake. The drive to the Sector 2 trailhead is a journey into a deeper, more profound darkness than simple night. The truck's headlights seem to be swallowed by the road just a few feet ahead. The digital displays on the dashboard flicker erratically, the clock resetting to 00 over and over. The radio emits only a low hum, like a single sustained note of dread. This is the first layer of the hunt. The equipment starts to lie. You learn to trust your senses, which is exactly what it wants you to do. We find Ben's truck parked where he left it, facing the wrong way, west, into the setting sun. A rookie mistake that now feels like a fatal one. We leave our own vehicle parked correctly, headlights cutting into the oppressive gloom, and step out into a wall of absolute silence. Not quiet, silence. The air is dead, holding no insect noise, no rustle of nocturnal animals, no whisper of wind through the pines. The pressure is immense, a physical weight on my chest. Samuel hands me a small pouch of crushed cedar and juniper. Breathe through this, he says, tying a similar one over his own nose and mouth. The sharp, clean scent cuts through the sterile air, grounding me. It's part of the procedure. You don't breathe the air where it has been. We don't follow the trail. The trail is a line, and lines can be bent. We walk the ridge line above it, using the strange compass in the patterns of the stars. We are not tracking a man, we are tracking the hole in the world he left behind. The GPS on my handheld unit is a joke, showing our position jumping from the middle of the lake to the highest peak in a matter of seconds. I put it away. We find the spot where he left the path. The ground is disturbed, but the tracks are wrong. The print of his standard issue boot, is clear in the dirt, but beside it is another impression, a scrape in the soil that looks like something impossibly heavy was dragged. As I kneel, my flashlight beam catches the edge of the print shifting, the soil seeming to flow like liquid for a second before resettling into a different, meaningless pattern. "It's playing with us," I murmur, the words muffled by the pouch. My heart is hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I can feel the eyes on us. Not from the trees or the rocks, but from the very air itself. It is a cold, ancient, and utterly indifferent attention. This is the part that breaks people. Not the fear of being eaten, but the soul-crushing terror of being noticed by something that views you as less than an insect. Deeper in, we find his radio, half buried in the scree. I pick it up. It's cold, unnaturally so, like it's been sitting in a freezer. I try the power button, and for a single horrifying moment, a voice crackles from the speaker. It's Ben's voice, but distorted, layered, like three people speaking at once. It says one word, a drawn-out, hollow whisper, "empty." Then it goes dead. I look at Samuel. His face is grim in the moonlight, his eyes fixed on the darkness that pools in the rocks ahead. He holds up a hand, and I freeze. He tilts his head, listening to the silence. I know what he's feeling. The hunt is over. Now we're the bait. We found him at the base of the scree slope, curled into a fetal position, shivering violently despite the mild night air. He wasn't injured, not in any way a field medic could diagnose. There were no cuts, no broken bones. But his eyes were wide and empty, fixed on something 1,000 yards past my shoulder. The lost hiker was, of course, nowhere to be found. There never was one. That's one of the oldest lures. Now he sits wrapped in a thick wool blanket in the station's briefing room, a mug of steaming tea untouched in his trembling hands. The sharp academy certainty is gone, scraped out of him, leaving behind a hollowed-out shell. He just stares at the wood grain of the table, as if it's the most complex map he's ever seen. "You broke the compact, Ben," Samuel says, his voice soft but carrying the weight of a judge's sentence. "You didn't listen to the land, so it showed you what it sounds like when it screams." Ben flinches, a tiny convulsive movement. The voice," he whispers, his own voice raw. It wasn't a person. It was the rocks, the trees, and the way it moved without moving. He trails off, unable to articulate the geometric wrongness of what he witnessed. He doesn't have the words for it. We barely do. "It doesn't have a name," I say, pulling up a chair opposite him. I keep my voice level, the same tone I use for an accident report. "It's the only way to get through this. We don't give it one. A name gives something purchase. It's a presence, an awareness tied to this territory. It's old, older than the mountains, and it doesn't operate on any rules we would recognize." His eyes finally lift to meet mine. They are filled with a desperate, pleading confusion. "But what is it? What does it want?" "That's the wrong question," I reply, leaning forward. "It doesn't want anything in a way we can comprehend. Think of it like a weather system. It has patterns, cycles. It lies dormant, and then it wakes. All we can do is follow the procedures that generations of people, Samuel S. people, and later, the first Rangers, discovered through brutal trial and error. The Sunset Protocol isn't a superstition, Ben. It's meteorology for something that will unmake you." I glance at the frame photo on the rain roars behind him. A group of Rangers smiling, squinting in the summer sun. I'm in it, younger, my face less lined. Standing next to me is a man named Marcus Thorne. "We got sloppy once," I say, my voice tightening. "Back in '09, a search and rescue for a real missing hiker ran late. Marcus thought the protocol was a silly campfire story. He used his flashlight to signal from the tumble after dark. Ben follows my gaze to the photo. What happened to him? We found his flashlight, I say. It was still on. Everything else was just gone. No tracks, no sign of a struggle. Just a perfectly circular patch of ground where nothing, not grass, not moss, not even microbes, has grown since. The personal cost. I make him look at it. He needs to understand this isn't an abstraction. Samuel rises and walks to the old cast iron safe in the corner of the room. He works the combination, the clicks of the tumblers loud in the quiet room, and pulls out a heavy leather-bound book. It looks more like a Bible than a logbook. He places it on the table between us with a soft thud. The leather is worn smooth, the corners protected by tarnished brass. "This is the other book," Samuel says, his hand resting on the cover. "My grandfather began it. His grandfather before him kept the record on marked stones." He opens it. The pages are brittle, yellowed with age, filled with entries in dozens of different hands. Faded pencil from the 1930s, sharp fountain pen ink from the 50s, modern ballpoint. The entries Don T. describe a monster. They describe phenomena. June 1948. The birds fell silent 3 hours before dusk. The river appeared to flow upstream for a quarter of an hour, offered the salt and iron at the threshold. The quiet passed. October 1972. Found deer tracks that became coyote tracks, then no tracks at all. The air tasted of ozone. We did not enter Sector 2 for 3 days. August 2009. MT lost. The silence came down from the ridge like a hammer. It stayed for a week. I watch Ben as he reads, his eyes flicking back and forth, his knuckles white where he grips the blanket. He's trying to find a rational explanation, a way to fit this into his ordered world. Atmospheric anomalies, mass hallucination. But he can the sterile observational language of the ledger, combined with the raw, impossible memory of what he just experienced in the tumble, is too much. The carefully constructed walls of his reality are crumbling. He finally looks up, not at me but at Samuel. The skepticism is gone, replaced by a deep, bottomless dread. "It's a cycle," he says, the words barely audible. "It's always here." "Always," Samuel confirms, closing the book gently, sleeping and waking. The protocol is not a cage to keep it in. It is a lullaby to keep it from waking up fully. You just rang the morning alarm. The call comes just after dawn. It's the county dispatch patching through a missing person report from a family in Ohio. Their son, an avid hiker named Daniel Miller, failed to check in last night. His rental car's GPS places it at a scenic overlook just outside our jurisdiction, but his planned route took him up the switchback trail, Sector 2. My stomach clenches. The lure now has a name. An hour later, a county sheriff's cruiser crunches to a halt in our gravel lot. Deputy Miller steps out. Not related to the missing hiker, just a coincidence of a common name that feels like a bad joke. He's tall, square-jawed, and carries himself with the unwavering certainty of a man whose authority is backed by a badge and a statewide penal code. His world is one of facts, evidence, and jurisdiction. He is, in his own way, more dangerous than anything in the woods. "Ranger Sharma," he says, his handshake firm. "Appreciate you seeing me. We've got a situation." "Deputy," I reply, leading him inside. "I've already pulled the trail logs. Let's talk in the briefing room." Ben is already there, seated at the table. I told him to stay put. He looks worse in the harsh morning light, his skin pale and clammy, a fine tremor running through his hands. He's a broken piece of equipment I now have to use as a shield. Miller's eyes flick to Ben, taking in the 1,000-yard stare. He's a cop. He recognizes shock when he sees it. He turns his attention to me. "My report says your Ranger Carter was the last person to have contact." "Not contact," I correct smoothly, placing a map on the table between us. "A possible visual." From a distance, I tap the map. Ranger Carter was here. He reported seeing what he believed was a hiker in distress down in this scree field. The tumble. It's notoriously unstable. Miller nods, his gaze sharp. "And he went in after them?" "He made a judgment call to render aid," I will say, choosing my words from the official lexicon of plausible deniability. He was unable to locate the individual. On his return, he had a traumatic encounter. Encounter? The word hangs in the air. This is the tightrope. I take a breath. The area is known grizzly and mountain lion territory. We have signage posted at every trailhead. Ben found tracks, large ones, and what he believes was a kill site, not human, likely a deer. The experience, combined with the terrain and the failing light, led to a state of severe distress. We had to retrieve him. I'm laying a trail of breadcrumbs for Miller to follow, a logical path that leads him away from the truth. Every word is a careful construction, a blend of fact and fiction. Yes, Ben is in distress. Yes, the terrain is dangerous. The lie is the predator. Or rather, the lie is in naming a predator he can understand. Miller turns to Ben. Ranger Carter, can you describe the hiker you saw? Ben doesn't look up. He just shakes his head slowly. Wasn't right, he mutters. I place a hand on Ben's shoulder, a gesture that looks supportive but is really a warning. He's still processing, Deputy. He described the subject as wearing a red jacket, but the details were unclear due to the distance and the twilight. And you found no sign of this Daniel Miller? No pack? No gear? A thorough search was difficult in the dark, I say. My priority was the welfare of my ranger. We've scheduled a full grid search to begin at 0800. Miller's jaw tightens. He's a good cop. He smells something off, but he has no framework for what it is. He sees an overeager rookie who got spooked in the woods and a senior ranger who sounds a little too rehearsed. It's a personnel issue, an administrative headache. He can't see the abyss that's staring back at him from Ben Carter's eyes. He'll need to join that search, Miller states. It's our jurisdiction now that a formal report has been filed. Of course, I say, my smile feeling like a mask, but my team will take the lead in the tumble. No offense, Deputy, but you don't know that ground. It shifts. One wrong step and we'll be looking for two people. It's a strategic necessity framed as a safety concern. He can't object without questioning my professional competence, and he has no grounds for that. I am offering cooperation while seizing absolute control of the operation. I will lead them on a carefully choreographed search of a place I will ensure they never truly enter. He finally nods, accepting it. Fine, but I want Carter's official statement on my desk by noon. You'll have it, I promise, knowing he'll be the one to write it. Ben won't be writing anything for a long time. As Miller leaves, I watch him walk back to his cruiser, a solid man from a solid, predictable world. He's sealing off the trailhead with crime scene tape, establishing a perimeter. He thinks he's containing a search area. He has no idea that the real containment is me, standing here, feeding him a story to keep his world from cracking wide open. The official search is a pantomime of futility. Deputy Miller has his command post, his grid maps, his earnest volunteers in bright orange vests. They are combing the wrong area, looking for the wrong thing, and their procedural noise is an irritant, a fly buzzing in a tomb. While they perform their duty, Samuel observes. He watches the way water beads on the station windows, refusing to run. He sees the compass needle in my truck spin like a top, even with the engine off. He crumbles a handful of soil from the parking lot and shows me how it holds its shape like wet clay, though it hasn't rained in a week. The ground is becoming saturated, he says, his voice low and grave. The residence is building. The search party is agitating it, like stirring a muddy pond. A performance of futility isn't enough anymore. It requires an acknowledgement. An offering, I say, it's not a question. He nods. He was invited in. He saw a face that was not a face. Now the door is open, and it is listening for a replacement. We must provide one. I go to the briefing room. Ben is staring at the map, at the neat topographic lines that fail to describe the horror they contain. He looks up as I enter, his eyes less hollow now, filled with a quiet, terrified understanding. Get your gear, I tell him. We're going out. The search, he starts, his voice raspy. The search is for them, I say, gesturing vaguely towards the distant shouts of the volunteers. This is for us. We tell Miller we are checking a remote access road for any sign of Daniel Miller's vehicle. It's a plausible action that gets us away from the jurisdictional circus. The three of us, Samuel, Ben, and I, drive in my truck, heading not toward the tumble, but deeper into the park's old heart, a place the trails no longer touch. The silence in the cab is as heavy as the silence outside. Ben watches Samuel, who is methodically braiding strands of sweetgrass into a small, tight circlet. The place Samuel directs us to is aggressively unremarkable. A small clearing, dotted with granite boulders slick with moss. There is no dramatic cliff, no ancient, gnarled tree. It is a place you would walk through without a second glance. This, I've learned, is the nature of these thresholds. They are thin places, hidden in the mundane. This is a place of balance, Samuel says as we get out of the truck, where what is above touches what is below. The offering must be made here to reaffirm the boundary. He hands the circlet of sweetgrass to Ben. You broke the pattern. You must be the one to begin the new one. From his leather satchel, Samuel takes the items we brought. The flask of spring water, a deerskin pouch of fine salt, a coil of pure copper wire. This is not a ceremony of supplication. It is a work of meticulous repair. He directs Ben to place the sweetgrass in the precise center of the clearing. Then I unspool the copper wire, and together we lay it on the ground, forming a round, perfect circle around the offering, the ends not quite touching. We leave a gap, a doorway. The air grows cold, a deep, bone-aching cold that has nothing to do with the temperature. The light from the midday sun seems to thin, the colors of the forest leaching away into shades of gray. A low hum begins, a subsonic vibration I feel in my teeth. It's the same hum from the radio, amplified, coming now from the earth beneath my feet. Samuel looks at Ben, whose face is a mask of sheer terror. He's feeling it, the full, crushing weight of the presence we've called to this place. Breathe, Samuel instructs him calmly. You are a rock. You are a prairie. You are a part of the pattern. He hands Ben the pouch of salt. Walk the circle, from the gap, sunwise. Pour the salt on the wire. This is the boundary. Your intention must be clear. You are closing a door, not building a wall. Ben stumbles at first, his hands shaking so badly that salt spills onto the moss. I see him falter, his eyes darting into the woods as if expecting something to rush out. But nothing does. The threat isn't out there. It's right here in the air we're breathing, in the humming ground. He takes a shuddering breath, his eyes finding mine. I give him a sharp, single nod. Do the job, Ranger. He straightens his shoulders and continues, his steps becoming more certain, the line of salt a stark white against the dark earth. When he completes the circle, he stands at the gap, his body rigid. The humming intensifies, the pressure in my ears becoming almost unbearable. Samuel steps forward with the flask of water. He doesn't sprinkle it or pour it. He simply uncorks it and places it on the ground, just inside the circlet of sweetgrass, an offering given freely, in acknowledgement. For a long moment, nothing happens. The world is a held breath. Then the small, smooth listening stone in my pocket, the one Samuel gave me years ago, grows suddenly, painfully cold. The cold seeps through the fabric of my pants, a touch of absolute zero against my skin. The humming stops, abruptly, utterly. The silence that follows is different. It is not the dead, oppressive silence of before. It is simply quiet. The pressure in my ears pops. A chickadee somewhere in the canopy above lets out a tentative, questioning call. The color rushes back into the world. The green of the moss almost dazzlingly bright. I look at the ground. The circle of salt and copper is undisturbed. But inside it, the flask is empty, the water gone, and the circlet of sweetgrass is gone too, replaced by a perfect ring of white quartz pebbles that were not there a moment ago. A receipt. Ben is on his knees, head bowed, his body shaking with the aftershocks. Samuel places a hand on his shoulder. The balance is restored, he says softly. For now, the price has been paid. We leave the circle as it is. It's part of the landscape now. As we walk back to the truck, drained and hollowed out, I know that Daniel Miller's name will soon be added to the ledger, another echo in a long, quiet story. The search for Daniel Miller is officially called off after 3 days. Deputy Miller stands with me at the trailhead, the crime scene tape now looking faded and pointless against the immense backdrop of the forest. We found a piece of a red jacket snagged on a thorn bush a mile from the tumble, near a ravine known for its treacherous footing. It was an easy thing to plant. Miller's final report will list the cause of disappearance as presumed deceased due to environmental exposure or misadventure. A neat, tidy box for a tragedy that refuses to be categorized. Tough break for the kid, Miller says, shaking his head as he signs the final jurisdictional handoff form. This land, it doesn't forgive mistakes. No, it doesn't, I agree. My voice even. He thinks we are talking about the same thing. He has no idea of the terrible, literal truth of his words. He thanks me for my cooperation, gets in his cruiser, and drives back to a world of speeding tickets and domestic disputes. The static of his world recedes and the park's deep, resonant quiet settles back in. The calm that follows is not peaceful. It is the unnerving stillness of a predator digesting its meal. The birds sing again, the insects drone in the afternoon heat, but it's a performance laid over a listening silence. We have reset the clock, but the clock is still ticking. Ben Carter is the living proof of it. He's no longer the eager rookie with a ready quote from a training manual. The change in him is profound and silent. He moves with a deliberate economy of motion. His posture no longer academy straight, but coiled, observant. His eyes, once bright with ambition, are now constantly scanning, not for people or animals, but for patterns. He sees the way the shadows fall, the way the wind moves through the grass. He's learning the park's true language. I watch him now, in the late afternoon, as he methodically checks the equipment in the maintenance bay footlocker. He handles the violet-lensed spotlight with the care a soldier gives their rifle. He measures out salt into small, deerskin pouches, his movements precise, ritualistic. He is not following a checklist anymore, he is performing a rite. He doesn't ask questions. He knows now that there are no answers, only procedures. The knowledge almost broke him, but Samuel and I managed to gather the pieces and put him back together in a different shape. He's one of us now, a keeper of a secret that is slowly hollowing him out from the inside. I thought sharing the burden would make it lighter. It doesn't. The weight is a constant. It's a physical presence, a stone in your gut that never dissolves. Sharing it just means watching someone else learn to carry it. I see the same tension in Ben's shoulders that I feel in my own, the same haunted look in his eyes that I see in the mirror. I see Marcus Thorne in him. The circle of those who know has widened, but the weight has not been distributed. It has been duplicated. Later, as the sun begins its slow descent, we stand at the main gate. It's the same routine as any other day, but nothing is the same. Ben doesn't need to be told to wait for the final sweep. He stands beside me, his gaze fixed on the tree line, his hand resting near the small listening stone I gave him from my own collection. He's feeling the air change, the pressure shift. Jed's voice crackles over the radio, calm and steady. Sector 4 sweep complete. The kettle is boiling. Copy that, Jed, I say. Gate is closing. Ben swings the heavy iron bar home. The clang echoes, just as it did before, but this time it feels less like locking something out and more like sealing ourselves in. We stand there for a moment, two sentinels on a wall no one else can see, guarding a truce we didn't make, for a peace that will never last. We haven't won anything. We have only earned another day. That is the only victory this job offers. The seasons have turned. Autumn has laid a carpet of gold and rust over the forest floor, and the air carries the crisp, clean bite of coming winter. The memory of the summer's long, hot nights and the silence that came with them has faded for most, filed away with the official report on the unfortunate hiker, Daniel Miller. The park is quiet in the way it's supposed to be, the natural, breathing quiet of a wilderness settling in for the cold months. Ben and I are on patrol near the high ridge, conducting a routine survey of the pine beetle infestation. It's the mundane, necessary work that fills most of our days. He moves with a quiet competence now, his field notes meticulous, his observations sharp. He can identify a raven's call from a crow's at half a mile and tell you the age of a deer track from a single glance. He never speaks of the tumble, but he carries it in the watchfulness of his gaze. We're parked at an the valley sprawling below us in a tapestry of color. A family is having a picnic a few yards away, their children's laughter echoing in the clear air. It's a perfect postcard image of a national park. Ben is focused on a section of the canopy through his binoculars, logging data on a tablet. I am leaning against the truck, drinking coffee from a thermos, letting the weak afternoon sun warm my face. And then I feel it. It starts not as a sound, but as the end of one. The cheerful chatter of a squirrel in a nearby pine cuts off mid-chitter, as if a switch has been flipped. The distant laughter of the children doesn't reach us anymore, though they are still playing. A pocket of silence has descended on our specific location, a small, localized vacuum in the soundscape. I stand up straight, my body going rigid. The coffee suddenly tastes bitter. A faint scent drifts on the breeze, something that doesn't belong here. It's a clean, sterile smell, like the air after a lightning strike, but without the promise of rain. Ozone. The word flashes in my mind, a memory of faded ink in Samuel's ledger. The air tasted of ozone. I look at Ben. He has lowered his binoculars, his head cocked at an angle. He's not looking at me. He's staring at a patch of ferns near the edge of the overlook. I follow his gaze. The ferns are trembling, but there is no wind. They shiver with a fine, unnatural vibration, their fronds blurring at the edges. He slowly turns his head and meets my eyes. His face is pale, but his expression is one of grim, weary acceptance. There is no panic, no surprise, just the quiet, shared acknowledgement of an old and unwelcome acquaintance. The lullaby has faded. The sleeper is beginning to stir. The moment passes. The squirrel resumes its scolding chatter. The sound of the children's laughter returns, bright and carefree. The ferns are still. To anyone else, it was nothing. A trick of the light, a phantom scent, a moment of inattention. To us, it was a message. We should check the salt lines at the perimeter before dusk, Ben says, his voice perfectly level, as if he were discussing the weather. Good idea, I reply, my own voice betraying nothing. And the alignment on the east-facing vehicles. Make sure they're exact. We get back in the truck, the mundane work of the day forgotten. As we drive away, I see the family packing up their picnic basket, oblivious. They see these mountains as a playground, a place of beauty and recreation. They see the gate we will lock in a few hours as a simple closing time. They don't see the watchmen. They don't feel the weight of the watch. They will sleep soundly tonight, secure in their world of maps and rules, never knowing that the real reason we close the parks at night is because the lullaby must be sung, the compact must be honored, and the line must be held, always, before the next night falls. We started this journey believing the park gates closed to keep us safe from the wilderness. Now we understand the truth is far heavier. The gates are there to protect the world from the wilderness within, a fragile truce held by silent guardians. Their unending watch is a quiet testament to the sacrifices made in shadows, ensuring the rest of us can enjoy the sun. Stories of these unseen burdens are what we explore here at Silent Whispers, peeling back the layers of the world you think you know. It leaves us with a difficult question to ponder, faced with Deputy Miller's official inquiry. Was Anya right to create a complete fabrication to protect the secret? Or should she have found a way to share some part of the truth? Thank you for listening with us. Until next time, we'll be turning back the pages of that old ledger to tell the story of what happened in '09 and why Marcus Thorne as flashlight was the only thing they ever found.